Good morning and welcome to this Monday, November 9th, 2020 edition of Trading Places Live at Earnings Beats. I'm Tom Bowley, Chief Market Strategist here at Earnings Beats, and I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes featuring everything you need to know as you prepare for the trading day ahead. Well, we've got good news this morning on a vaccine. We're going to get into that. There's obviously some negative implications for a lot of stocks, a number of companies that we have in our portfolios, which have done extremely well for us. Not exactly taking, bullish or not resulting in bullish fashion as a result of the COVID-19. We'll talk about all of that in just a little bit. I do want to first point everyone, anyone who's new to Earnings Beat, certainly over to our website. So let me get that up for you. All right, should be able to see the screen now. But if you're not a member of our Earnings Beats community, if you're not a member of our service, you can go to earningsbeats.com. We've got our free Earnings Beats Digest newsletter that you can sign up for here. Name, email address is all it takes. No credit card. You can unsubscribe at any time. It's really an educational newsletter. We'd love to have you. Also, tonight we have a huge event coming up, and that will be our sneak preview to our top 10 stocks. So, when you look at this portfolio performance over here, and this will change, we'll see how everything goes throughout the day. But certainly at the open, we do have a number of stocks, a few stocks that are related, have done so well during the pandemic. And with the vaccine news out this morning, there was no doubt that there was going to be a shift, and we're seeing that this morning. We'll see it at the opening bell. How bad the shift is and the rotation is, we'll have to kind of look at that. But going into today, you can see the model portfolio, huge outperformance versus the S&P 500 this quarter. Very nice outperformance as well. But again, today could see some deterioration. We'll have to see how we finish today. But all of our portfolios have done exceptionally well. Tonight at 4:30, we are going to have a free webinar. And if you're part of our community, Earnings Beats Digest community, or paid member, you'll be able to come into that event at 4:30. So make sure you sign up at least to our free newsletter, and we'll get room instructions out later today. But let's go ahead and take a look at first what happened on Friday. And believe me, what happened last week, it was a great week. We struggled a little bit at the end of the week, but overall it was an exceptional week. And with the vaccine news out this morning, we're going to see a massive pop. It looks like both the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 will open in record high territory, unless something changes here in the next 25 minutes. That's what I would be looking for. But on Friday, we did pull back a bit. Saw the Dow Jones Industrial Average fall 67 points. The S&P 500 fell 1. NASDAQ gained 4. Mid caps were down 10. Small caps down 10. Over 1% on the small caps. But we were right up here near a high. The mid cap and the small cap index, I would expect, is going to open at all-time highs as well. I think they both will open at all-time highs. As far as sectors go, staples and technology did well on Friday, at least on a relative basis. Energy, not so much, rolling over again at that 20-day. But again, the vaccine news changes a lot of what's been going on in the market. And I know energy prices were up probably 10% this morning, crude oil prices. So I suspect you're going to see a big pop in energy. We're going to see a big pop in anything that struggled back in March and April. And I'm going to go through a segment with you and talk about some of the areas I think are going to see a big pop at the open. The question is, do we see accumulation throughout the day? Or is this just a move to the upside, then maybe a pullback, try and get everybody excited. Then we pull back, everybody gets upset because they're losing off the top. And then we start to see accumulation. That's the more likely scenario, but we'll have to see. There could just be buying right out of the gate. Maybe it doesn't end. Travel and tourism had a big day on Friday. I would look for a really big day today in this group because travel has been severely restricted as a result of COVID-19. So having a vaccine, a good news event coming out, that certainly should spur that group. Marine transportation, struggled on Friday, and you can see this has been a group that's been in downtrend for quite some time. Not a group that I would be in favor of, but a group that's likely to do very well today, and we'll see whether or not that continues, like I said. 10-year Treasury yield jumping this morning as well. You can see the 10-year Treasury yield now at 0.92%. We were at 0.75 just as recently as Thursday. So big move to the upside here. That normally coincides with the market rally, and we certainly have been seeing that. Can we take out that June high? And this is going to be a day also for that pandemic index that I've been following. Do we see that continuing move, to the upside and get through the June 8th high on that pandemic index? The pandemic index is just something I've created using the user-defined index at stock charts. I just wanted to see when we got a breakout, because I think when we get a breakout above that June high, that's going to speak volumes for that. I think we could hit it today. So, and we still had a little ways to go. I mean, I think the index probably needed to go up 15% or so, but we might get that in some of these areas that are beaten down. So that'll be an interesting index to follow, and I'll be pointing that out to all of our members throughout this week for sure, especially today. All right, I'm going to keep moving on here. I want to show you here, this was just a little bit ago, Pfizer. Let me get the updated. But it was Pfizer reporting on the vaccine today. So wanted to get the update here and get the most recent. Yeah, 14.7% on Pfizer this morning, 41.75. So up over $5 today. It's going to easily take out these prior highs. Do we get a big red candle, gap up, and then a failure? Or do we see a hollow candle where we gap up and just keep going higher? Has this become 20%, 22%, 25%? That'll be one of the questions for today. It's not the gap up. The gap up, the news comes out, everybody's going to be excited. Obviously, there's going to be a lot that's going to happen at the open. That isn't as interesting to me as what happens after the open. So just like we did back in February and March when we caught a lot of the rotation back then, I'm absolutely going to be doing the same thing. In fact, some other things I'm working on probably going to go on the back burner, because I think this is going to be really important as we get ready for the next quarter's picks on each of the portfolios. I think this is going to be a really important factor, is what happens after today's open. Is it just a one and done, or do we really truly see massive amounts of money rotating? And there's going to be money coming in from different areas. I mean, we've got the bond market already showing a big jump in the yield. That means folks are selling bonds. So you've got all that cash ready to come into the stock market. Then you've got the pandemic, the stocks that did really well during the pandemic. I know Zoom was getting hit hard this morning. Down $71, down 14%. So you can kind of see Zoom down 14%, Pfizer up 14%, and that's kind of how things are going to open. I know Peloton was getting hit. Wayfair was getting hit. There's Peloton down 15%. Let's take a look at Wayfair. 11%. So these are the stocks that are going to, they're the ones that got bid up because of the COVID-19 virus, and they're the ones that are going to get hit. Now, my belief is that we've got just lost the word. Let me get a drink of water while I'm thinking about it. Paradigm shift. There it is. So we've got I think there's a paradigm shift that's taken place. Now, there'll be some things that'll go back to normal maybe in a year. Other things I think have changed for business forever. And I would say that one of those things that's changed is Zoom. I don't see people at home who've been working at home now for the better part of 2020 simply saying, oh, I'm just going to go back into work now. I just don't think it's going to happen. So there's going to be this initial reaction like in Zoom and some of these other stocks. The question is, do people go back to gyms? Are they going to stick with Peloton? I believe the majority are going to stick to Peloton. They're going to get used to working out from home. And I think many are going to continue to do it. Wayfair, people are going to stop shopping from home. They're going to all go rushing back out to the malls around Thanksgiving, Black Friday. I don't think so. In fact, I believe that some of these stocks, Wayfair might be one of them, but these online retailers, they're going to have a big holiday season coming up. And this could be an opportunity on these stocks. The vaccine news and these stocks taking a hit here could be an opportunity. If you're thinking the same thing, I would probably build my position slowly, just in case the selling is more than just a day. Maybe Zoom goes down 70 today and maybe goes down another 50 tomorrow. I mean, who knows? So I would be thinking in terms of maybe building a position. Don't feel like you have to just rush in at the opening bell today. So, but again, what happens to these stocks after they open down? When Wayfair opens down $30, $40, what's going to happen after that? I mean, we've got support down here 240, as you can see. So we're opening above that. Are we going to move all the way back down, test this, and then start to bounce? Are we going to break down? A lot of questions to be answered, not just today, but in the weeks ahead. All right, S&P 500. I was looking at this chart, and part of me, first of all, when we gap up today, it's going to be a big gap up. I suspect this PPO is going to move back to a new high. But the one thing I have noticed throughout this move up has been these gap ups in the morning and failure. Gap up, failure. Gap up, and then failure. Gap up, and failure. Most of the strength's been coming in the morning. I prefer to see the opposite. I like to see buying in the afternoon. So we're going to gap up again this morning. But are we going to hold, or are we going to start to sell off in the afternoons like we have been throughout this rally? If we sell off, I'm not going to be as thrilled. I'm still very bullish going forward. And I think this vaccine news is spectacular news. Don't get me wrong. I think we're going higher. And this was coming. We knew the vaccine news was coming at some point. We just didn't know when. So I'm not at all upset and thinking that there's something wrong because the market's not being bought during the afternoon. I just think that we've got the news. I think the market has been preparing for this news to some degree, and I'll show you that a little bit when we get into relative strength. But we've seen industrial start to show strength. And so now, I think that was kind of the rumor building on the fact that we were going to be getting some vaccine news, and we were expecting it this year. We weren't expecting to wait till next year. So nothing is really a surprise, but I think what we could see is that initial rush in, and then maybe a carpet being pulled out, and then something being built up longer term, because these companies that are going to do well with the vaccine are not all of a sudden going to turn their business around now. It's going to take a while. And there's still going to be some questions as to who makes it and who doesn't, because the vaccine, first of all, has to be manufactured for a lot of people around the globe. And then you've got to distribute the vaccine. And then there's, I'm sure, a period of time that once you take it, I don't know if it gives you immediate immunity. So there are going to be a lot of questions. That's my point. And so is this first move to the upside going to stick right now? Or do we pull back one time, really frustrating those who jump in on today's news? Don't know. That's going to be part of the evaluation process. I think that's what we're really good at Earnings Beats. And that's what we're going to be looking at over the next, couple of days to couple of weeks to couple of months. I'm going to be doing the exact same thing that I did back in March in terms of looking to see what is going on during the day, not just at the open. The open is, I don't want to call it amateur hour, but it is kind of amateur hour. It's like, you get news, everybody jumps in, in one direction or the other, but then it's over a period of time that you really see what's taking place. And that's going to be really important to check out. But as I look at this, we're getting close to the tops, and the top back in September. The high was 35.80. It looks like we're going to probably open up somewhere around 36.50 on the S&P 500. So we're going to blow away the 50 or the all-time high on the S&P 500. And it's not like this isn't something that we've been talking about for months. I mean, I believe the stock market's going a lot higher. My prediction, and now it seems like maybe it's even a possibility, was that we were going to hit 4,000. My prediction on the S&P 500 was 4040 in 2020, back on January 5th, before we even had the pandemic. And when it went down to 2100, 2190, I remember got some emails, and, what do you think? We're going to hit 4,000? Like, of course, probably not. After you go down, you have a pandemic and go down like we did. But here we are. And all of a sudden, with today's open, we're only going to be about 10% away on the S&P 500 from 4,000. I think it's a possibility. I don't know if we're going to get there, but Still a possibility. Who would have thought that back in February, March? Well, February maybe, not so much in March. All right, let's take a look. I want to go through some of these areas that I think we need to focus on. Here's the good news. Well, there's a lot of good news. There's a ton of good news just in the vaccine itself. But when you look at the XLI, the industrials, since the May low, you can see this was the February, March debacle. And we kept going lower and lower. Industrials got hit really hard. This is going to change now. I mean, it's already been changing. We've been seeing a bounce, but we had the relative price action get above the 50. The 20 was still working its way up to the 50, but we hadn't gotten it. We went positive on the weekly PPO. This is a good start. Today, we're likely to see a big jump in this relative strength. I think industrials are going to get bid up. I think industrials are going to beat the market today. So I suspect we're going to have a pretty big jump. And if we continue, this is going to have a pretty significant impact on our portfolios come November 19th. We've been staying away from, we've had a couple of industrials here or there, but we haven't really done much with the industrials. We've stayed away from financials. We've stayed away from energy and utilities and real estate, all those different areas. And we've concentrated primarily on technology, consumer discretionary, communication services, and healthcare. Those have been probably the four biggest groups that we've been using in our portfolios, really over the last couple of years, but especially here in 2020, staying away from those areas that were beaten up. But now that we have the vaccine, let's see what the market tells us. We could shift quite a bit in terms of where we want our money going in the next quarter. So a lot of questions to be answered here over the next, not just today, but over the next week, couple of weeks, couple of months. So industrials is one certainly to take a look at. Now financials, look at the relative weakness. We're down at a all-time, well, not all-time, but 52-week low for sure. And this goes back 2 years. We probably go back multiple years on a relative basis, and we'd be pretty close to that low, that relative low. So, and then this is one of those charts where you see the PPO rising, but in this case, relative price action keeps dropping. All this tells us right here is that the relative weakness that we saw, which was so severe, it's still bad, but it's not as severe. So this is just telling us that the relative momentum isn't as bad as it was. It's still not good. So, a lot of folks use the PPO and they just look at the line. If it's going up, they think it's bullish. I don't do, if it's going up and it's above the zero line, it's bullish. Going up below the zero line doesn't necessarily mean bullish. Sometimes it can, but doesn't always. In this case, I would say it hasn't. But what kind of reaction are we going to get today? I think financials are going to do very well. But is it a one-day wonder? Is it just a couple of days? Do these gains stick? Those are the questions we need to have answered. In the meantime, you've got technology, which has been on a roll. We're going to see a big drop here. Consumer discretionary, likely to see a drop here as well. Probably not as bad as technology, I wouldn't think. Communication services just broke out. Probably going to see a drop here, although again, I don't think it'll be as severe as technology. And then healthcare, which really had been kind of struggling since that early pop with COVID. Had kind of gone all the way back down to where we were in February, or almost all the way back down. Now we're starting to turn back up again. I suspect healthcare will get a boost from COVID. We'll see. Actually, this is going to be an interesting group to watch. Obviously a company like Pfizer is going to get a pop, but I think Regeneron, which also is, looking to come up with a vaccine and their antibody treatment and everything else, they were down $20 last time I looked in pre-market. If you got a vaccine, you don't have as many people that are going to be, sick with the virus. So you don't need the antibody cocktail that was provided to President Trump. So, there's going to be so many different ways to look at the market and look at these various stocks and to try to find the winners and the losers going forward. But you've got to believe that vaccine news, positive vaccine news, has to help industrials. I can't see how it hurts industrials. So this is going to be a group that I believe will do well going forward. So having said that, let's look at the relative strength and let's go into these industries, because I think some that have been hit the hardest will come back, but I actually like some of them that are already starting to do well. I think they'll do even better. So let me pull up. Let's start with the truckers. So truckers have been getting hit the last couple of months, but I would think trucking would do well. Probably not going to be one of the better groups, but I would expect truckers to do well with the news. Business support services got this double top here. This hasn't been that bad. And actually we rallied, back during the pandemic, March to June, but then we've been pulling back. Can we get this breakout? It'll be a group to watch. Then you've got diversified industrial starting to show strength, relative strength up above the 20. This is a group that's been under a lot of pressure, but really got hit hard back in March and April. I suspect this will be a group that will come back quite a bit with this news. Industrial suppliers starting to show really nice strength. And we actually featured one of the industrial supply companies in our Earnings Beats Digest newsletter this morning. But here we could be getting a breakout on the industrial suppliers. That would be huge news. Defense stocks absolutely getting crushed all year. There's a little bit of political, impact here as well. So this will be a group to watch. I would expect we're going to get a bounce. I just don't know how much. Heavy construction already was starting to show strength. This is a group I'm really excited about. And I think this will just continue to help this group. This could be one of the leaders going forward. I think heavy construction will do very well over the next few months. Transportation services, doing better. Big hit back in March, so I expect transportation services will get a nice pop. Industrial machinery, another group that's been doing extremely well, got hit very hard in the first couple of weeks with the pandemic, but it's come back really nicely, and I can't imagine it won't continue to benefit from a vaccine. Railroads, if the even the economy here in North America, if things pick up, you got to believe railroads do well. So the vaccine, you would think, would help the railroads. Marine transportation has been down for a long time, even before the pandemic. Went down with the pandemic, had a little bit of a bounce, and then continued moving lower. I would expect, though, that we'll get a nice pop on marine transportation. Building materials, already very strong. Took a big hit back in March and April, but came back strong. Kind of like the heavy construction area. I think this is an area that should do very well going forward. It's already a leader, and I don't think the vaccine news is going to hurt this group. Aerospace should get a pop. In fact, I wanted to look to see what Boeing was doing. I never did check this one out. Yeah, Boeing up $21. Is Boeing out of the woods? No. Again, I don't think any of these companies are out of the woods just because the vaccine news comes out. There are still companies that are going to have fundamental issues. And like I said, the vaccine is great news. We knew it was coming, but that doesn't mean everything flips on a dime. So does Boeing gap up and continue moving higher? Do we get up to that 200-day moving average and go right back down? Another very interesting question. Going to be a lot of questions out there. I don't have the answers for them. I'm going to be looking for the answers. HR, which is commercial vehicles, also doing extremely well. Look at that PPO, relative PPO to 4. This was a group that got hit during the pandemic, went to new multi-year relative lows. It's already started to come back. The vaccine certainly isn't going to hurt it. Same goes with delivery services. Group that was hit very hard during the pandemic, went to new lows, has already come back. So you can kind of see, looking at these charts, industrials already are showing some strength. And now we're getting the vaccine news. I think this could be a leader over the next 3 months. Airlines, no doubt, are going to get a pop. I'm still concerned. We talk about paradigm shifts. I think a lot of people are going to cut out travel for a while. I just don't, even with a vaccine, I just don't see a lot of folks jumping right back on airplanes. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe we get right back to normal. I just don't see it. I think this is a paradigm shift. I think that there's still folks out there that will buy RVs and do a lot of traveling that way rather than getting on an airplane. I don't know. We'll see. This is going to be a nice pop. If I was in airlines, which I wish I was right now, you're going to have some nice gains at the open, I'm certain. And that's it. So those were the industrials. So you can kind of see already we were starting to see improvement, probably some of the institutions beginning to build positions knowing that the news was coming. But I think industrials probably have their biggest strength ahead of them. Even if we get, I would say if we get this gap up and then you see a pullback, I think that could be an opportunity. The pullback could be the opportunity to jump into many of these. And I'm hoping the timing works out for our portfolio selections, our draft, which is a week from this Thursday. And again, if you came in late today at 4:30, you will be able to come into our sneak preview. It's open to everyone. It's a free. The only thing we ask, if you do come in, or in order to come in, you need to sign up for our Earnings Beats Digest newsletter. It's a free newsletter. You can unsubscribe at any time. No credit card required. Go to earningsbeats.com. Just fill that out. Name and email address, all you need. Again, no credit card. You can unsubscribe at any time, but that will get you into the room. Make sure you're signed up. Now, if you're already a member of our service, we'll send you room instructions. So don't worry about that. You don't have to sign up for the EB Digest as well. Okay, let's move on to earnings. Let's see. Well, the first one, I know McDonald's reported this morning. And of course, there's going to be a combination now. It's going to be hard to really interpret reactions to earnings on a day when the vaccine comes out. So company could have really bad earnings and still have a huge gap up just because they've been impacted by the virus and now we have a vaccine. But I will say that on McDonald's, and I'll show you the reaction here. Stock is up pre-market. They did beat $2.22 versus $1.93. Stock up $8, almost 4%. So it's kind of going up with the overall market. It's going to take it back up to about 225. No breakout or anything, but at least back up above those moving averages. Next up is, BKI, Black Knight, up 4.6%. Again, this was already a stock doing pretty well though, but is this move related to earnings or is it related to COVID? We don't know. They got two news events. It's going to make it very difficult. Next up is CGC. A lot of these stocks in this area, this is Canopy Growth Corp. But a lot of the stocks last week, the marijuana stocks did extremely well. And this one is one of those, did well last week. And now let's see what we've got for today with the news. By the way, Black Knight reported earnings 52 cents versus 50. Canopy Growth, 16 cents earnings. The market was expecting 23-cent loss. So nice beat. And you can see another big gap up here on this stock. Another high flyer of late has been Plug Power. They reported they missed their earnings, came in with a loss of 11 cents instead of 6, but they're still up 2.3% with their earnings. Stock looking pretty good technically. Looks like could get a breakout, but we don't want to see a big red candle. You don't want to see what looks like a breakout turn into a false breakout. So you might want to be careful if you own it and the stock reverses and fails to hold that 19 level. Another one, EXPI. EXPI up $3.50, 7.3%. They came out and announced 20 cents in earnings, market expecting 14 cents. And then I will do one more here for you. And this is TGNA. They missed. They were expected to do 60 cents. They came in at 59. Stock's still up. So again, may not even matter. Probably would have been down, but with the huge move up, stock getting a lift here in pre-market. All right, 3 you must see. I tell you, I didn't even get these 3 ready. I was preparing, looking at what was going on this morning with the everything taking place in the market with the vaccine. Let's take a look maybe just at these top 3 percentage gainers from the Dow from last week. Take a look at their charts, see what's going on here. So J&J got to hold. That was a nice hammer, by the way, that printed there. Should be back up above the 20-day with today. Can we eventually get back through that 155 level? That's going to be the key. If we get through with the vaccine news out there, Johnson & Johnson could be ready to start leading. Next up, Walmart. Walmart, I think this looks good, but this is a company that did pretty well during the pandemic. So not sure. Let me get an update here now. It's after 9:30. See where it's up. It's up after, despite doing well during the pandemic. I guess the vaccine and knowing maybe the in-store shoppers, maybe things would pick up there. Maybe that helps to offset what might be a loss online. We'll see. And then the last one was, I forgot to pull it up, and now everything's changed. Well, let's just pull up one other stock here. How about, no, we did Cisco recently. Let's do Coke. I haven't looked at Coke here. So Coke getting a nice pop and taking out the recent highs. And on a relative chart, because this is what I want to see Coke leading soft drinks at a minimum. I really want to see soft drinks doing well so that Coke can outperform the S&P 500. I still would probably wait a little bit on Coke. I think there are going to be other stocks out there that do better. But there's no doubt that the vaccine news is helping here, at least on the open, and we'll see what happens from there. Last thing we'll look at before we go, first let's pull up the market. And you can see the S&P up 128. Look at the Dow up 5%, S&P 3.6, NASDAQ 1.2. But I can tell you that a lot of the bigger companies, a lot of those companies that did well during the pandemic are not leading today. So you can see NASDAQ 100 only up 2/3 of 1%. And that's probably a tremendous variance. In fact, that might be a good thing to end the show on. Let's take a look at that NASDAQ 100. I think I have the right 100 components on here. I should. Let's do a view all. Let's see what's working and what's not working here. Well, Apple, you can see there's up 2%. So discretionary, look at the 6 discretionary stocks at the top. Travel and tourism, not a shocker there. Big move up on Expedia. Expedia was starting to look good anyway. Yeah, I mean, it had already broken, was on the verge of breaking out, holding above its 20. AD line was at a new high. I mean, this was already a stock doing well. Expedia is probably going to continue to do well. Maybe we get that pullback, and that again would be the one short term, because it's making such a big move. Do we get a little profit taking? That'll be a question. I guess we'll have to wait and see here. Let's see. So anyway, you can see all the discretionary. My guess is we're going to see a lot of technology on the other side. Well, 2 of the 3, Zoom, DocuSign. Zoom down $84. I mean, this is a big move down for Zoom, 17%. I'm actually surprised that there aren't more 15% drops here. Regeneron is down $30. That's down 5. PayPal lost $14 at 7%. Amazon down 4%. But again, I mean, considering how much they've gone up, this really isn't as big a hit to the downside as I would have expected, other than Zoom. Zoom is getting hit pretty good. Biogen, by the way, talk about a stock that has just been all over the place. Last week, remember, there were reports going around that the FDA was going to approve their Alzheimer's drug, and the stock got that huge pop. Well, they didn't. The FDA instead said no. And I think there was an overwhelming number that said no. And so Biogen taking it on the chin today to the tune of 30%. All right, that is it. It's going to be an interesting day. And don't forget, 4:30 today. This is a big event. It's one of my favorite ones of the quarter, because I do go through and talk a little bit about the strategy and how we go through and pick these companies where we have been crushing the S&P 500. So if you haven't been through one of these, I hope you join us. Go over to earningsbeats.com. Make sure you sign up for that EB Digest, and we'll get room instructions out to everybody this afternoon. Everybody take care. Going to be an interesting day out there. See you later at 4:30. Find out where we finished. Take care, everybody. Happy trading.